today's episode of Gardening 101, we started off by looking at the do's and don'ts of citrus trees, specifically lemon and limes. Now we join Linda at the Saxon Hotel, Villas and Spa's rooftop vegetable garden to find out more about perennials in the vegetable garden.
Today we're going to talk about perennial crops, and how we define perennial crops are crops that grow through spring and summer, generally die back in the colder seasons like winter, and they remain dormant during those periods, the cold season period, and then resurrect themselves again in spring and summer. And they do this for a number of years. In some cases, a minimum of 3 years, and like asparagus, they can grow like this up to 15 years. So perennials are really important to have in your vegetable garden. One of the very good things that perennials offer is that because they stay in one place for such a long time, the soil generally remains undisturbed and untilled. This gives the soil a lot of time to build up nutrients and a good humus content. What that means is that your plants can thrive for a very long time. In winter, should your perennial crops in fact die back, that's the time to give them an extra bit of food, maybe some good organic compost, and then cover the area with some dried leaves as a mulch, because you don't want to disturb the area where the crops are planted. There's also much less fuss when it comes to perennials. Once you've planted the crops, you don't have to replace them for a number of years, which is also a huge benefit and of course a cost save. Perennials seem to crop for much longer, and in some cases they can crop through all the seasons, so you're assured of lots of food. There really are so many benefits with having perennial crops, and something you should really consider putting a lot more of in your organic vegetable garden. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you some of the crops that we really enjoy having in our vegetable garden, and we're going to explain how all these crops benefit you so much. So come with me and let me show you. One of our first favorite perennials to have in the garden is a cucumelon. I love cucumelons. They are tiny and they're delicious in salads, and they taste like cucumber and melon. Quite an interesting taste, I must say. And what's so amazing about these is the seeds are so tiny, and when you first plant them, they take quite a while to germinate, but as they grow throughout the season, they get stronger and more prolific. In winter, if your winters are quite, harsh, the plant will die back completely. But the root system tends to get more and more prolific and stronger. So every single year your crop becomes more abundant and the plant becomes more vigorous. The great thing about cucumelon is they are part of the cucurbita family, and you can of course eat the leaves. Another wonderful point about perennials is that the pollinators really appreciate having those plants in the garden when they are flowering, when everything else has died back, like all your annuals, and they still have a supply of food, which is really great. The next perennial we're going to chat about is Jerusalem artichokes. What a fabulous plant to have in your garden. It's part of the sunflower family, so it gives you the extra benefit of having a beautiful flower that looks very similar to a sunflower. As you can see, this fantastic plant can really grow up to about 2.5 meters, and it looks very much like a sunflower. Even the pretty yellow flower that it produces, which by the way are not edible. This is the Jerusalem artichoke stems, leaves and flower. What you eat with the Jerusalem artichoke is in fact the tuber, the root under the ground. As this plant grows every single year, you get the roots being bigger and bigger and bigger, and they taste like a potato with a nutty flavor. They're absolutely delicious. They are not related to the artichoke, the globe artichoke family at all. In fact, already mentioned, they're part of the sunflower family. If you get this huge prolific crop in your garden every single season, just watch out that they can spread and become a bit of a problem. So keeping them contained in their own bed is a great idea. The next plant we're going to look at is strawberries. Believe it or not, those are perennial too. So let's go take a look there. strawberries are perennial too. I know they're not a vegetable, but everyone likes to have fresh berries to pick in summer, and they are so delicious. The thing about strawberries is, interestingly, the seeds are on the outside of the fruit as opposed to the inside, which is quite unusual. In winter, the leaves do go a little bit purple and die back slightly, but the plant resurrects itself again in spring and summer, and you can have a crop for quite some time. Every year, the plant just gets stronger and stronger. And interestingly, to propagate strawberries, you can just take a stolon, which is basically an extended stem and leaves of the strawberry plant, and root it into the ground or a pot next to it. It's fabulous to have as many strawberries as you possibly can. Just keep the snails away from them. The next thing we're going to talk about is fennel. Fennel, besides fennel being such a wonderful medicinal plant, it adds delicious flavor to fish dishes, and it is so good for you. You should add it into your juices as well. You get the plain green fennel and the bronze fennel, which is so pretty and has a bronze tinge to their fluffy leaves. It's also a perennial, and it can grow quite tall. We have some of it growing behind me over here. I'm just feeling these fronds, which are tickling my neck really. Strong anisey flavor, totally delicious, and they also form such a good bone structure to your garden. I hope you enjoyed this episode of perennials, and consider them, include them in your organic vegetable gardens, even include them in your ornamental gardens, and you can eat from them throughout the year. Most perennials offer long cropping seasons.
After the break, Michael Rickhoff reflects on the progress of his 2 garden designs and points out features that bring structure to the design.